Nintendo doesn't have any games. The Nintendo Switch 2 is bare. There's nothing to play, and I'm sick of it, is what people are saying. I've heard so many people say that there's 0 games on the Nintendo Switch 2. My boy, are we even looking at the same system? So today I want to talk about what that even means. Why are there people saying this? And if I agree. Do I agree that there are 0 games for the Nintendo Switch 2? Do I think Nintendo has hit it and split it with the Nintendo Switch? Like, what's going on here? What are my thoughts? How am I feeling? What is there to play? So let's get right into it. I think a lot of people are kind of salty when it comes to the Switch 2. I feel like they've been burnt with what Nintendo has offered with this system so far. I think that if you don't really love Mario or Donkey Kong, I kind of get the idea that you think you have nothing to play. However, I think this is just a vocal minority. And I've been seeing that a lot recently about the Nintendo Switch 2. There's just a lot of people saying things like, okay, game key cards, yes, they suck. And that is more than just a vocal minority. That's actually probably a majority of people. There's just been drama surrounding the system. Game key cards, no content for Mario Kart World, $80 for Mario Kart World. And now I've seen there's been no games released for the Nintendo Switch 2 system. So I'm going to debunk that really quickly. Let's talk about it. First of all, let's look at the other platforms, the other consoles, the PlayStation specifically. There really hasn't been that many major games coming out for PlayStation recently. We just got Ghosts of Yote, which was a PlayStation exclusive. Death Stranding 2 is supposed to be coming out, or maybe it's already out. Who even knows? There's like this space game that's planned to be released and all that stuff. But really, there's very little first-party games, especially, well, mainly for me. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a big Death Stranding 2 guy or I'm a Ghosts of Yote fan. I'm sure that if I played them, I'd probably enjoy them. And I do enjoy a lot of the PlayStation games. But again, I am a Nintendo guy, so I play a lot of the Nintendo-like PlayStation games, like Astrobot. I loved Astrobot. I enjoyed the Spider-Man games and Uncharted and The Last of Us, but really there's not been that many major PlayStation games. When you look at Nintendo releasing just this year, since the Switch 2 released, we've been getting technically 2, but at least 1 game a month. We got Mario Kart World at the launch of the system, which yes, I know is expensive and might not be for everybody, but it's Mario Kart. Also, that's a big game. Like, that should keep you busy for a little bit. Now, they also released Welcome Tour, which barely counting. And then a month later, after Mario Kart World, we got Donkey Kong Bonanza. Then we got Drag X Drive. And then on top of that, we got all of the Nintendo Switch 2 editions that were littered throughout. And we can't say that that's not something. That's almost something every other week they release those. So even if you're not a big fan of these games, then you're not a big fan of it. But at least they are releasing stuff. And there's a lot more to pick and choose from than, PlayStation. If you don't like third-person action and adventure games, then probably PlayStation is just, it's worse than, other games. And I'm not saying that everybody is saying that the PlayStation games are getting more games than Nintendo. That's not what I'm saying, but we also just need to look at the reality of the video game market. We got to look at how often a big franchise or a big publisher like Nintendo is releasing these games, because I think Nintendo is really the only publisher that are releasing this many games. So to even have half of these would be much more than the gaming market. That's my point. Even if you don't count Nintendo Switch 2 editions, Nintendo is still releasing these Nintendo Switch 2 editions. But then you got like the first party games, like, okay, Pokemon just released. This is the very first time that a Pokemon game has been released in the first year of a new Nintendo console. Usually they're pretty late to the game. They'll have the game released the next year after a big console drops. But Pokemon Legends EA, that's like big game that they put on the Switch 2. Now, obviously, that is a Switch 1 game. However, they at least made it better for these Switch 2 people to enjoy. I'm liking the game so far. It looks nice and crisp, and it runs at 60 frames per second, which is a lot better than the Switch 1 version, which is at 30 frames per second, maybe, and is running at like 720p or 1080p. It just doesn't look good on the Switch 1. So the fact that at least they've updated it for the Switch 2 is something. I know it doesn't look perfect, but still there are other Nintendo games that are getting the full Switch 2 treatment. Like, literally in 2 weeks, we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Like, that's crazy. The fact that we are getting a game that's a Legend of Zelda game, and that we're getting it 2 weeks after a massive Pokemon game. And then 2 weeks after that, we have Kirby Air Riders. 2 weeks after that, we have Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4, we've been waiting for this game for 8 years, and they're releasing 2 massive first-party games just 2 weeks before that game is released. Like, there's no way that you can say the Nintendo Switch 2 has no games. I think the people who are saying that the Switch 2 has no games just simply don't like Nintendo games, or don't like, Mario Kart or Donkey Kong. And that's fine, but there's such a massive selection selection of these games to pick from. And that's not even it. This is just the end of 2024 or 2025. This is what we get in 2025. In 2026, we already have, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, which is like, okay, not for the hardcore audience, but it is still a Yoshi game. It's a 2D Yoshi game for those of you who like 2D platformers. Splatoon Raiders, a brand new Splatoon game, is supposed to be coming out at some point in 2026. So there you go, Splatoon fans. You get a brand new spin-off game. We really don't know what that even is. And then again, for Pokemon fans, we just got a Pokemon game that is more mainline, but we get this new spin-off called Pokemon Pokopia, which is mid, I think. I'm not a huge fan of that. You can check that video out on this channel, my full opinion on Pokemon Pokopia, but also Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Now, I think even less people are fans of Fire Emblem than any other game, but still, for that hardcore fans and for the selection of games we have, I'm happy that we are getting a Fire Emblem game. Maybe I'll actually really enjoy this. I've tried playing Fire Emblem games every single release, and I just can't get into it that much. I actually did like Fire Emblem Engage. That one was okay. I like that one better than some of the other ones. I put quite a bit of time into it, but still, I wouldn't say it's like, my favorite franchise. I'm going to try it out, of course, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite. But then for those hardcore fans, we have an exclusive Switch 2 game by FromSoft, which is Dusk Bloods. That is a huge deal. The fact that we're getting third-party support like this for just the Nintendo Switch 2, now I'm sure Nintendo and FromSoft made some sort of big deal to get, these Souls-like fans on the Nintendo Switch 2 platforms, but the fact that the Dusk Bloods is coming out first on the Switch 2, that's a big deal. That's a big game. And I'm not even talking about third-party games yet. There are so many third-party games that are releasing on the Switch 2 alongside the other console versions of it, like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox versions. Like we got Pac-Man, we have Borderlands 4, which just got delayed, but still, at least it's coming. We're getting lots of games ported that weren't able to make it on the Switch 1 because of the lack of power on that console, and now we're getting Switch 2 versions of these. We have, Final Fantasy 7, a game that I haven't got into before. I haven't played it, but I know I'm going to really enjoy it on the Switch 2. I've actually played it on the Switch 2 before, and I think that game runs beautifully on the Switch 2. And then you got Switch 2 editions, games from the Switch 1 that could be beefed up, like No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is now on the Switch 2. It looks beautiful. They just did a big update for Ark Survival. There's countless things I could say right now. So to say that the Switch 2 has no games is crazy. Obviously, Nintendo is supporting it more than any other publisher that has ever published games. There are so many Nintendo games. It's insane to think there's zero Nintendo games. And we don't even know about the end of next year. We don't even know what that schedule looks like. But already, Tomodachi Life. Even Switch 1 is getting games. Tomodachi Life, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends. Switch 1 is still getting games. And they're all getting brought to the Switch 2 with better versions. So, I mean, it's just, I'm just sick of all this Nintendo Switch 2 hate and all the drama. I wanted to make a video on it just to get my opinion out there, show you what I mean. That's about it. Nintendo Switch 2 has games, and if you can't see that, then you need to, look at other franchises and gaming developers and see that we're actually getting it pretty good as Nintendo fans. So yeah, let me know what you think about this topic. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.